everyone, Draco Magnius here for another episode of Lessons in Wizardry. Today we'll be covering the spell that we got from Horace, the various guardians of the magical stones for Mornstar, the Winter Isles, and the tale of the Bear Man and the Princess's Tears. But without further ado, let's get started with Cloudburst. Cause a fearsome rain to fall upon your foes. This spell summons a rainstorm to pound a small, focused area of the battlefield. While a great volume of water produced is powerful in itself, the spell can also be used for practical things, such as putting out fires. It has long been believed that the rain also prevents wizards from casting spells. Be sure to bring this to bear on your enemies. Alright, and without further ado, I'm going to show you how to draw the rune for this very useful spell. Alright, a couple things before we get started. You'll notice my blue Yeti microphone is in the shot with the stand. Well, try as I might, I couldn't get it angled so it was out of the shot and I was still being picked up, which is, you know, kind of the whole reason it's there. But alas, there was no way for me to do that, so this is the best I could get it set up. I backed myself up a little bit so that I can still draw runes. But yeah. So without further ado, I'm going to start drawing the rune. I guess the best way to describe this one is you're making like a sort of check mark and then a smaller check mark up near the upper area of it. So I'll do that again, but I'll do it slowly. Alright. So, down, up, there, and then your little check mark right there. Now one more time rapidly. Alright, and with all that said and done, we move on to our next subject, the various guardians of the magic stones. I will see you all in just a moment. Legendary Beasts 13, the Great Ghost Ship. What awaits after a life on the ocean wave? A group of night fishermen were casting their nets in the moonlight, when all of a sudden, a great darkness fell upon them. When they turned around to see what was blocking the moon, they spied an enormous battleship, one they had not seen approaching, despite its great size. Without any warning, the galleon opened fire on the fishermen and sank their boat, before fading back into the gloom, as silently as it had come. Extract from a Coast Guard's report, Legendary Beasts number 8, the Great Serpent of the Desert. An expanse of quicksand from which there is no escape. Every wizard who travels across the shimmering sands has heard the rumors concerning a hellish swirl of quicksand somewhere out in the desert, capable of sucking a man into its depths in mere seconds. All that remains of those who have been swallowed is a faint snake-like trail, known to the locals as the Great Serpent of the Desert. Legendary Beasts number 9, the Lost Hound. A legend from the frozen north. The people of Yule tell the story of a little boy from the village who disappeared while searching for his beloved dog. According to the legend, the boy became hopelessly lost in an icy cavern, and still roams its labyrinthine depths to this day, endlessly seeking his missing pet. Alright, but that covers basically all of the blurbs of Legendary Beasts on our different stone guardians. Now we cover Sir Boreas' actual entry. For some reason, the other two didn't have entries in the Wizard's Companion, but Sir Boreas does. Go figure. Anyway, I will see you all in just a moment. Alright, and here he is, the mighty Sir Boreas! I do want to show off all his animations, so we'll see how long that takes. You know, as per usual. Well, there's his guard. And this looks like he's casting, yep, the blizzard boulder thing. And I think that was, yeah, I think that was all of them. Alright. Sir Boreas, the loyal hound of the Wizard King, So Boreas is famed both for its mastery of ice magic and its preternatural fleetness of foot. The hell is preternatural? Anyway, its overwhelming physical power, meanwhile, goes almost unremarked. Only the most foolhardy of wizards would willingly face such a foe, or Oliver and friends. It has a resistance to water and a weakness to fire, like literally everything in the Glittering Grotto. Its sign is unknown, and it drops Spirit of the Snow. Its notable attack is the Great Hound calls forth a blizzard that assails every enemy on the battlefield. Yeah, I got that a bunch of times. Anyway, now I'm gonna cut this here and we move on to covering the actual Winter Isles. I'll see you all in just a moment. Okay, even though I'm pretty sure I already read the other islands blurb, I'll read that first. While the Summerlands and Autumnia are two of the largest continents, there are plenty of smaller islands that a curious traveler would do well to visit. Here are just two of the most notable examples. The Winter Isles. A collection of islands located to the northwest of the Summerlands. The climate is extremely cold, and the ground is covered in ice and snow all year round. Be sure to wrap up warm should you decide to visit. Alright, now let's read of the only two notable locations on this area. The Glittering Grotto. A cave located on the northernmost part of the largest of the Winter Isles. Some say it's so labyrinthine that no one who entered has ever come out. They're of course wrong. Okay, well, way to just throw that legend out of the door, but okay. Yule. Located on the southern part of the largest island, Yule is the only inhabited settlement on the Winter Isles. Gee, I wonder why it's a frozen wasteland. With nice people, but it's still a frozen wasteland. Anyway, be sure to visit in summer, since it gets so cold in winter that no one dares leave the house. Noted! Alright, and if I'm not mistaken, if I just go straight in, yep, here we go! Here's the entry on Yule. A tiny tundra town of ice and snow. Yule is located on the southern part of the largest of the Winter Isles. Though it's often unspeakably cold, the town is also known as the best part from which to view the aurora. Visitors to Yule often remark upon its thick wall, which is designed to keep out both monsters and the worst cold. Essential information. The climate is permanently cold and snowy. The local delicacy is ice stew. Local character is cold at first, but very warm-hearted. The festivals that take place here are the Snowman's Gala. And here's a picture of the Elder of Yule, which is off because it's a Tomta now, but whatever. The Glittering Grotto. The legend in Yule is that this curious cave lets you take a glimpse into the past. Its a complex layout makes it a popular destination for wizards in training, but they are often left disoriented by the eerie voices that can be heard within. Wow, I fumbled all over myself with that one. But, oh well. I think I did alright. Anyway, now that that's all said and done, we go to the story that we recently got, so I will see you all in just a moment. The fourth tale. The Bear Man and the Princess's Tears. A kidnapped princess. The king of a peaceful kingdom had one daughter whom he loved very much. This princess was very brave and very wise, and assisted her father in ruling the kingdom. Hard by the edge of the kingdom was a steep mountain. No one ever approached it, however, for it was known that a witch lived in a cave at its foot. This witch had long had an inclination to rule a kingdom herself, but the fearless princess never failed to foil her plans. The witch had an apprentice who was top half bear and bottom half man. This apprentice was known as the Bear Man, for that was his name, and was fearsomely strong, but dull-witted, and had always carried out the witch's commands to the letter. One day, Bear Man was in the cave making a potion when the witch returned with a young woman. It was, yes, the princess, who was always ruining her plans. The Bear Man looked at the princess and was twice shocked. Firstly, at how wondrously fair she was, and secondly, at the sight of her hands and feet, which the witch had turned to wood using magic.
"Look after the princess," the witch commanded the bear man. "Do not let her get hungry, or shed a single tear, else there shall be trouble."
The bear man immediately went to fetch some fruits and preserves from the larder. Since the princess's hands had been turned to wood, the bear man tried to put the fruit in her mouth directly, but the princess turned away from him and looked instead at the witch. "What will you do with me?"
"I shall tell your father I have taken you hostage," the witch replied, "and demand his kingdom in return for your freedom."
"That would be a waste of time," retorted the princess. "Father is always telling me not to believe anything a witches say. He will not trust you, even if I am in mortal danger."
"Silence!"
shrieked the witch, and with a wave of her hands cursed the princess, who became quite unable to speak. The witch had stolen her voice. The bear man's duties. The next day, the witch went to the palace to negotiate with the king, and it was left to the bear man to provide for their royal hostage. The bear man liked looking after the princess. He felt sorry for her, with her wooden limbs and stolen voice. He tried his very best to take good care of her. The bear man was in fact very kind, you see, and despite doing evil things. He was happy knowing that the witch would not scold him for being kind to the princess. After all, it was the witch herself who had commanded him to look after her. But while the princess did not shed a single tear, neither did she smile so much as once. The bear man used the finest ingredients to cook dishes that he hoped would make the princess happy, but when the meals were served, she would do no more than stare at him in total silence. Now the bear man knew that the princess would only smile when her hands and legs were free again, and she regained her voice. But the bear man could not lift curses himself, and he knew that the witch would never do it. All he could do was continue to cook fine meals for the princess. The princess who wouldn't cry. Several days passed, and still the king would not listen to the witch's demands, just as the princess had foretold. This did nothing for the witch's mood, of course. And one morning when the bear man was bringing food to the princess as usual, the witch shouted at him,
"Why are you wasting such good food on her? Anything will do as long as it stops her from crying."
"But I thought the princess would be happier if she could eat fine foods, mistress."
"Who told you to make her happy?"
With that, the witch snatched up her wand, and with a flick of her wrist, rendered the princess deaf. And then she proceeded to tell the bear man a secret.
"There's a reason why I told you to stop her from crying. If she sheds a single tear, all of her curses will be lifted at once."
The bear man now realized that the witch had not wanted him to be so kind to the princess, or to look after her. She had simply wanted him to stop her from crying. He now knew what he had to do to make the princess happy once more. The next time the witch left the cave, the bear man put his paws around the princess's rosy neck and started twisting, yet she did not cry. The bear man felt he had no choice but to strike her. He was strong, and the poor princess was unbalanced on her wooden legs. She fell to the ground violently. "Now cry, I beseech you! Cry, and all your curses will be lifted!" The deaf princess laid on the ground, clearly in pain, yet she still did not cry. She simply continued to stare directly at the bear man. The bear man, for his part, resolved to treat the princess with great cruelty. He stopped feeding her, set snakes and insects upon her, and pulled out her beautiful golden hair. The bear man tried his best to be brutish, but when he looked upon the princess in agony, he felt sorry for her that he started sobbing. Though he hurriedly wiped away the tears with his big paws, knowing that he must not let the princess see him crying. It was too late. The princess had realized something was amiss, and resolved not to shed a single tear, no matter what ordeals the bear man put her through. The bear man snarled and bared his teeth, and treated the princess more cruelly than ever. But the princess was very brave and very wise, and did not shed a single tear. Tears at last. A month passed, and the witch visited the king once more. When she returned to the cave this time, however, her mood had changed.
The king refuses to negotiate. And there's no point in keeping a hostage anymore. It's time to kill her.
Upon which she waved her wand once more and sent a deadly arrow whistling toward the princess. The bear man immediately threw his great bulk in front of her, shielding her from the arrow which pierced his chest. As he crashed to the ground, the wand fell from the witch's hand. The bear man's fate was sealed, but with his last morsel of energy, he opened his eyes and looked up at the princess. She stared back at him, her eyes wide. I have done such terrible things. I will die as an evil man in your eyes. Such were the bear man's sorrowful thoughts as he perished. And as he did so, tears fell in a flood from the princess's eyes, raining down upon her wooden feet and arms, lifting the curse and returning her to normal. The princess immediately stood and picked up the witch's wand and used it to draw a rune, for the princess could use magic as well, you see. A large fire engulfed the cave, and the witch's wailing could be heard for miles around. Once the blaze had subsided, nothing remained of the witch, save for a small pile of pitch-black ashes. At that moment, the bear man was brought back to life as a beautiful young prince, for his dull-witted bear form was nothing but a curse imposed upon him by the wicked witch. The prince asked in a weak voice, for he was still upon the brink of death, Your Highness, why did you cry for me? Witnessing your death, it filled me with a terrible sorrow. Had I only known that crying would lift my curse, I should have done so far sooner. I see now that you were trying to help me, even as you did those horrible things. I treated you terribly, Your Highness. Please forgive me. Of course I forgive you. You're a kind person at heart, and for that I am truly grateful. Now please, do not die. Upon hearing these words, the prince shed one final tear and breathed his last. The forbidden spell. The princess stared at the prince's lifeless body for a long while, for picking up the wand once more with conviction, she had settled upon a course of action. She would cast Ashes of Resurrection. Upon casting the spell, the cave filled with a white light, restoring breath to the prince's lungs as it shone upon him. The princess's spell had brought him back to life. The very next moment, however, the princess fell to the ground. As she lay there, she raised her face and asked the prince, Who are you? Ashes of Resurrection is a forbidden spell, he replied mournfully. Those who cast it always pay a terrible price, and the price you've paid is your memory of me. And the prince's eyes filled with tears of terrible sadness once more. Why are you crying? Asked the puzzled princess. Because something important has been lost. Upon hearing the princess's next words, however, the prince could not help but smile. Well, perhaps together we may make it anew? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of our tale. And with that, the end of our lesson. So I'll see you all in the next episode, and I'll see you all in the next lesson. Remember to study.